We're sitting here with me and my friend John Slater. We've been friends for a long time, and just want to first of all ask the question: tell us how you first got connected to Confluence.
The first experience I had with basically, it was through church in the city. The first thing I encountered was, from the third row, from the stage, was I smelled this aroma of alcohol in the church.
Okay.
And so I turned around and, oh, there's this guy off the street, right? And my background is in alcoholism. And so I said, wow, I must be in the right place because this guy's drawn into church. And so then worship began, and I really enjoyed the worship. And so that allowed me to think of, maybe I could stay here. I mean, I've been involved with several different ministries and mission trips, third world countries and things like that. And so this became a little more real to me of, this is true worship and ministry and outreach, right? So I decided to come back, and each time I came back, or on a Wednesday night, you had during the summer, you had free, hot dogs and
Services outside.
services are outside on the band stage. I just saw everybody serving everybody, and so I just jumped in and just try to become part of a ministry, and that's throughout my whole history is I've been involved in missions and outreach and things like that with different churches that I've been involved with.
So then in
That's my sweet spot.
2003, we felt that God was
2003, yep. You and Cindy felt like the Lord was leading you to do their ministry throughout your history and to reach the world or to the city, and so that was really cool to be at the birthing of this ministry.
absolutely. You guys had the DNA, the heart. You helped to formulate what the mission was, and all at the very beginning.
Yeah.
We definitely needed organization, and we know that Jude is not really the organizer, but definitely, John, your fingerprints, the blueprints of Confluence and how to structure things and take organization and make an event or outreach happen.
Yeah.
That was your gift. Besides you being on the scene and building relationships with, whether it be the Race for the Cure or whoever, but that was your heart.
Yeah. So basically, that was the start of Confluence, right? It's still
We're
evolving.
changing.
It's still evolving.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's so good about it, that we're adaptive. We can pivot, especially today's
World, yeah.
day and age of Christianity and what that looks like to the world. To pivot towards people that can still serve the Lord.
Yeah. It just seems like a lifetime. What other types of volunteering do you remember being involved with? Obviously, you've mentioned missions, you've mentioned organizing some of the outreaches.
Yeah. I mean, we have some really cool stuff that we've done before, like Race for the Cure. That was one of our big annual circle your calendar type events that we would do every year. Because Cindy had, she had breast cancer, and I approached you and
2005.
said, hey,
Yeah.
that was a couple years after, right?
Yeah.
I said, hey, Jude, we want to do something with the band to be out on the race course at Race for the Cure for Cindy. It's kind of hitting home personally. So got a hold of them, and they said, how much do we charge for the band to be out on the race course? And I said, well, we're a nonprofit, so we don't charge anybody. We won't charge you.
Yeah.
We just want to be in the race.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are skeptical about, a band, you're a great band, but you don't charge. And so how good are you actually? What talent do you have? Through our great musicianaries is what we call them. We have beautiful people that express their talents and time
Yeah.
and commitment to Confluence.
Yeah. They'll learn how to give back of the gifts that God has given them and give it back to community and see
Exactly.
others being encouraged by them using their gifts. And it doesn't happen by itself, right? It takes organization, it takes manual labor to set things up. And
Yeah.
you've been a part of like setting up events throughout all these years too, as well.
Yeah, races are for sure. And then, we have another circling event on our calendar is our block party, right? So our block party. So it just came natural actually, just put things together, just eventually or evolving me into more leadership and organizational roles. So,
So, so John, I think through the years, what I've seen is like there's a there's a word to me that morphs from being a volunteer to actually becoming more of a someone who lives a lifestyle of service to the Lord.
sure.
So it's servant, servanthood, and
Yeah.
Jesus, was the ultimate servant of all, where he humbled himself, and he really was a servant. Tell me what your thoughts are in related to being serving the Lord.
I know I've always felt the Lord's hand on me since
Mhm.
I was little, and I'm just really appreciative of it. So basically, I've been clean of drugs and alcohol for over 30 years. So, and God, showed me the way through all this, through different, Bible studies, AA meetings, um, 30-day in-house treatment program, death, murder, suicide, all those things that happened in my life during that time, divorce,
Mhm.
um, and I still stand up
Mhm.
and carry the cross, So I think for me, it's almost in my DNA really to be always mindful
Mhm.
of stewardship and in ministry.
It seems
It's
to
just
me that because of you're expressing how much God has loved you and how much He's seen you through, and as a result of that, like, what can I do more than serve Jesus?
yeah. And so what Christ has given me, the church is supposed to, as I was walking through the church doors, young in my sobriety or young going through things. I was always met with um, healing opportunities,
Mhm.
and so
We do go through hardship in life. We do go through things that we actually
mhm,
like come together and like be comforted by being around each other and to
yeah.
feel supported. And
hmm
how has that happened with you?
Well, I just recently, I was diagnosed with um, sarcoma cancer, and I've been through round 2 of 4 of chemo. I'm doing really well. There's other opportunities that we share as a community, to pray together, or we have a men's Bible study that we meet here every other week, with Jeff Moses, and then again, most recently we had a prayer meeting for me for what I've been going through, and so there's been a lot of support through that. I've got a lot of prayer warriors out there that I'm so grateful for, and I, I'm just so thankful that we have that. So I try not to think about that, but I try to think about my friends and my family
Yeah.
that are coming that day, or to spend time with me, or just to sit with me,
Mhm.
not necessarily. And so yeah, so the last couple times, have been really awesome, and I'm really thankful, but glad to get out of the hospital.
So, John, what would you say to someone who is considering to volunteer with Confluence or any other entity?
There's some apprehension sometimes about it. What's this outreach like? Am I capable of doing something? But I think the
Risk.
bottom line, yeah, the bottom line is going to be is to really kind of reach out of yourself and say, I'm gonna I'm going to take a risk and trust in the Lord that He has the ultimate job for me. You know, I mean, we've been on mission trips before, right? The ear, nose, and throat specialist that we brought in, and so she was like worried. She was like,
What am I going to do?
on the mission field,
Yeah.
right? There's nothing for me to do.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, her eyes lit up so bright. You never know what's going to happen, man.
Yeah.
And so let's just go. Let's just do all this together, and we'll find a way to bring you to some type of fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
And most of all, right? So I think this leads us into the fulfillment that you would have after the event or after the outreach that we do. It's like you get rewarded twofolds back when you do that. So I would definitely suggest that's a great starting point for you. It may be a background in your profession or the background of what you grew up in, or not. We don't know. And so the gifts and talents that God gives us, you know, we need to seek that. We need to seek that out.
You know, we're called to emulate the Christ, the life of Jesus. And, you know, he truly was a servant and a servant of all. And so if we cultivated that lifestyle of serving the Lord to see his kingdom come here on the earth, and what you're saying is like the reward, the return is far more we can ever imagine as we just step out to serve him. Yeah,
man. I mean, you know, you just struck a chord in me, and I don't even play guitar anymore, but you know, an example would be, you know, we had planned a Race for the Cure event. This has been a few years back, but and this is kind of a reward story, actually, you know, and about what we are really called to do when we walk the earth here. And but so there was this gentleman that came to our stage. You know, we had our stage out on the race course, Race for the Cure. I think Cindy was actually out of her chemotherapy, and she was able to walk that race that day. But this gentleman came up to the trailer, you know, and he was like, I was awoken from my slumber because of the music, you know, was so loud.
What time was it?
I don't know, 7:30, 8 o'clock.
In the morning.
In the morning.
On a Sunday morning.
On a Sunday morning.
And all of a sudden you're hearing this, you know, music from the room. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the really surprising thing is he stayed all day or all morning. I mean, we don't do it all day, obviously. The race is over around 11 o'clock. But he stayed at our trailer until it was over. He volunteered. The volunteerism kind of kicked in for him, and he started helping, you know, break the stage down, load the trailers, and we gave him a ride to we invited him to breakfast, because typically we have an annual kind of a breakfast celebration after the event, and he was sitting with us, right? And so he started telling us his life story and all of the things that were happening in his life, you know, his testimony, basically. And he mentioned to us that he had never, ever talked about any of this stuff of his life to anybody until that morning. And so there's the reward. Yeah. There is a huge reward right there of him giving us his story of what his struggles have been.
Yeah. John, I also remember that it was during the point of our time with him together that he did open up his heart to receive Jesus as his Savior. And then all of a sudden, like, we're sitting with people he doesn't even know, and he's telling the story and the pain, and like he stopped. I remember that he stopped and he goes, "Whoa, listen, I've never told my story to anybody before."
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's certainly a blessing. It's a miracle, and that's kind of my story. You know, I can relate to that story as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what hit home with our time together.
Yeah. Well, John, thanks for sharing your journey as one who is just such a amazing servant, using all your gifts and talents